But for me, I felt alone because I felt like I didn't have the family or the friends to reach to because I had closed them off because of the shame.
So you had isolated everyone else.
Everybody.
Okay,
And
so that's advice.
myself.
That's advice to those that are experiencing this. What advice would you give them if they
reach out? Reach out. Don't feel ashamed. Go to whoever you need to go. Family, friends. Find a mentor. Anyone that you feel that will listen to you, because everyone will listen to you, and they will give you help. They will support you in knowing that.
Now, how did you get out?
How I got out was there was one night my husband literally beat me to I was bloody from head to toe. He had all day long. He had ripped all my clothes up, and just imagine this: my 3 children there. Okay.
They were witnessing this?
They were witnessing this. I was laying on the couch. He was literally taking a fishing string and trying to choke me. He was literally
So his intention was to kill
me.
That was like the day that he had decided that he was going to kill you?
Yes.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the launch of the Kim Jacobs Show. First of all, I am so excited. When I say totally excited, finally, the show is here, the Kim Jacobs Show, and you're going to be in for a tremendous treat because I will be bringing on women and men from all walks of life, talking to you about how they've overcome all types of odds to become who they are today. And people balance so many different aspects of their lives, but we never know the behind the scenes aspects of things. What did it really take for them to overcome? What did it take for them to be the great people that they are today? You need to know their backstory. So I'm going to be bringing that to you here on the Kim Jacobs Show. Today, my special guest is a woman that is an international award recipient. She's an international speaker. She has grown up dealing with childhood poverty. She's overcome so many obstacles in life. This is a woman who triumphs. She's dealt with domestic violence and has survived domestic violence. And she's here today with me to share her story. Please welcome Miss Christine Kozachuk.
Thank you, Kim, so much for having me today. I'm so excited to share my story with the world today.
Thank you. We're going to have a good time.
Yes.
We're going to have a good time. I just, I thought it'd be so good for my launch show to have you on here as my guest because I really want the world. Women are dealing with such difficult experiences in their home life, and I thought it would be great for you to be able to share with women how you overcame.
Oh my goodness. I'm so glad this topic because this is so me. I've had such a story that I've wanted to share for so long, and it took me so long to actually share the story. I kept this story hidden for probably a good 35 years.
Okay.
That long. You really had to be in my circle, my closest friends and my families to actually know exactly where I come from and where I am today. So it's been quite a journey from the start of, me being pregnant at the age of 13 in a very small community in West Virginia of approximately about 700, people there, to I had my first child at 14 years old.
Oh my goodness. So what was it like having a child at 14?
Oh my goodness. And
in the community, how did your family, did they support you? Did they shun you?
My family, they supported me. My mother, my grandmother really supported me and, and encouraged me and kind of, took me under their wing and kind of protected me at that moment. But the community itself, I really had a hard time with the community of the judgment of the community.
Right.
Because it was such a small community.
And everybody knows
everybody knows everyone. And it was a very Christian community.
Okay.
And I grew up there in the community of the Christianity, and it was, I we went to church. My mother had us go to church every morning. We went to church every afternoon and every Wednesday. So this was a church that I grew up in.
So everyone in the community is looking to say, okay, Christine is
Yes.
out of wedlock, a child having a baby. And were they judging the young man too, or just you?
Just me.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that could be the case. That's why I was wondering.
Just me.
I didn't want to steer you in that direction, but I said, you know, sometimes, unfortunately,
Yeah.
people get judged, and it's the female that gets judged, but sometimes the male is like, oh, well, you know, you're off the hook.
Yeah.
But in fact, it's both, you know, both individuals that's produced the situation.
Absolutely.
So.
And this was back in 1983.
Okay.
84. You know, I had a son in 84.
Well,
So,
first of all,
yeah.
congratulations,
Yeah.
because every child there's no child on this earth that's a mistake.
Absolutely.
So I want everyone in the world to know that if you've had a child, whether it's out of wedlock or whether it's through marriage, there's no child that's a mistake. No matter what the circumstances or the situations are that brought the child about, those are those situations.
Yes.
But that child is a blessing to this world
Yes.
and deserves to be here. So I'm so glad that you allowed and took a stance that you would bring your child to this earth.
Yes,
So.
and you know, he's my life, and he even asked me that question one time, was that a mistake? I said, you were not to be born at that time, but you're never a mistake in my life. So, you know, he's amazing, and, you know, I love him.
What's his name?
Darren.
Darren.
Yes,
Darren. And
Darren.
how old is Darren today?
Darren's 34.
34 years old.
Yes, 34 years old with 2 sons of his own.
Oh wow!
Yes.
First of all, you look amazing. So
Thank you.
every person, even though you're looking from the studio audience or out on the viewing audience, I know you would love to just rub her shoulder so that you can look this good when you get this age. Look how great you look.
Thank you.
And actually, I know it's a sidetrack, but you've won a pageant or two, haven't you?
I went into pageants.
Okay.
Yes, I went into 2. In my early 40s, I won the last one. I won Mrs. Photogenic.
Yes.
So
you were
that was
super photogenic.
Yes, the first one I was Mrs. Charlotte,
Okay.
and the second one I was Mrs. University City.
Wow.
So yes, it's something I would never thought would I've done.
And all of
But
this was
challenge-
Mrs. So
MRS.
that lets you know too that you're never too old to start pursuing a
Exactly.
goal or a
Exactly.
dream, because you were Mrs.
Yes.
Photogenic, and
Yeah.
you really are.
Well, it wasn't really a dream or anything. My husband and I were sitting at a restaurant, and I was still challenging myself. I was losing some weight. This was back in 2013. I said, you know, I need something to really challenge me. He said, run for a pageant. I'm like, run for a pageant? He said, yes, run for a pageant. So that was his idea.
He just wanted to see you. He wanted to see you like
Yes.
slim, dookie, and like.
Yes,
woo,
that was his idea.
Well, that's a great idea
Yeah.
because it did inspire you, and
Yes.
you went on to achieve great things through it. So that's excellent.
Yes.
Now going back to your childhood,
Mhm.
tell me a little bit more about what happened as you did have your son,
Right.
and how things continued to unfold in your life.
You know, after I had my son in September of 1984, I married his father,
Okay.
which is in December, a few months after that. I had actually quit school.
So you and the father got married at what age?
I was 14.
14 when you got married to the father.
I
Okay.
was 14
So
years
you were really determined not to be a person that had a child out of wedlock. You
Right.
wanted to make it right,
Right.
based on the community that you were in, and knowing that ultimately you wanted to be with this gentleman,
Correct.
and he wanted to be with you.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, and when you're 14 years old, you have a child, you know, you're getting married, you think, you know, this is going to be a fairy tale, you found your,
Right.
your knight in shining armor and everything like that, but that's not what happened. You know, after we had married, which was December of 1984, he, you know, he never touched me or anything like that, but 2 weeks later, after we were married, I remember the first time that he actually physically abused me. I mean, I don't to this day not know what exactly happened.
Okay.
But I remember balling up on the floor and him just beating me and just wondering why. So that there for the the abuse and the mental abuse occurred from the age of 14 until I was 18 years old.
And he just literally out of the blue, no rationale surrounding it. You just found yourself in a very vulnerable position,
Yes.
being attacked by your husband.
Right, correct.
Wow.
Yes. Yes. And they, you know, between that time of 14 and 18, I actually had 2 more children with him.
Okay.
I had my daughter when I was 15 years old, and that story itself is amazing. And let's go back to, you know, the community itself, you know, judging me being a, an unwed mother at
Right.
that time, is my daughter was not due until February the 4th.
Mm-hmm.
She came December the 25th at 4:11 in the morning. She's my beautiful Christmas baby.
Oh, congratulations.
So what I tell people, I said she was given to me on that day to show that community that God's watching.
That's right.
You know.
That is so beautiful. That's so beautiful.
Yes.
So and what's her name?
Sharon.
Sharon.
And
okay.
she has 3, so I'm actually a grandmother of 5.
Get out of here. You. Oh.
Yes.
So that's why they call people like grandmas and stuff like that.
I tell people I'm a nana.
Yeah, Nana. Okay, because I'm like everybody that looks like you, they refuse to consider themselves a grandma.
Nana.
You know, so
yeah,
you're a Nana. Okay.
So we have 5 total,
Okay.
and absolutely, I tell people they need to figure out how to have grandkids before kids.
Yeah.
But in that meantime, having my daughter in the abuse and things, then I have my son at 18 years old, which
okay.
his name is Eric, and he doesn't have any kids yet.
Okay.
Yet. He just turned 30.
Okay. Wow.
Yes.
So your youngest child is now 30.
Yeah.
This is crazy.
Yes, he just turned 30 on December 22nd. So
wow.
I had a lot of Christmas babies.
So now you have 2 sons
and one
daughter,
yes.
married to someone. You're 14 to 18 years old in marriage,
mm-hmm.
which is already unheard of,
mm-hmm.
and you're now experiencing physical abuse from your husband.
Right.
And now how did this all work where you were making a decision that I can't do this as a mom?
Right.
I'm a mother of 3 children.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 18 years old,
mm-hmm.
which is already in itself traumatic,
right.
that you're dealing with a lot at a very early age.
Mm-hmm.
Quite a bit of responsibility is being placed on you. And whenever you're a mother, we know there are
yes.
so many demands, so many responsibilities, so many things that you have to be accountable for.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end of the day, you have to come home and still deal with your spouse beating you.
Yes. Yes.
Tell us about this.
Yes.
How did this work?
I'm going to go back to being in West Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
Before I even had my son at 18, we
mm-hmm.
had actually moved from West Virginia to Lincoln, North Carolina, to better our family because there, is so poverty stricken.
Right.
I can remember growing up, a piece of meat would be a luxury item for us. So that's how, I grew up,
right.
as a child. But I love the mountains. I love the people.
Mm-hmm.
I love the quietness of it. And, but, the community itself, it didn't have a life for me. It wasn't for me.
Right.
So we moved here, got a job. My first job was actually McDonald's. I think that's everybody's job. First job.
Well, my first job was actually it was Tom McCann shoe store in the mall, and then I went to be on to be an assistant manager at Kenny shoe store, so within the mall.
And then from there, I went to work for a manufacturing company with my ex-husband.
Okay.
And my ex-husband actually had to sign for me to work because I was only 16 years old. In this manufacturing.
And how old was he?
Yeah, he was 4 years older than I was.
Okay.
Yes, 4 years older. 16 years old. So we worked together.
Mm-hmm.
We were together 24 hours a day.
Okay.
7 days a week. We both worked, second shift jobs
mm-hmm.
with 2 kids at that time.
Right.
But the physical and mental abuse, still occurred on a daily basis. I remember going to work and making excuses, and I know some of the women that are going through this can understand what I'm
right.
saying, is I would go to work with bruises on my face and make excuses. Oh, I failed playing with the kids. That way,
So that one, let's stop there for a second because people, I literally have heard some of these
mm-hmm.
things people say, and I've witnessed it, I've read about it, and I'm like, this is interesting because people officially give a formal rationale to why
mm-hmm.
they've experienced the abuse, but they don't call it abuse.
Yes.
Why is that?
I don't know.
I've always wanted to know, why is it that someone would say, I fell and hit my face on the corner of
mm-hmm.
something when they know that their spouse
yes.
physically did that to them?
It's the shame. It's the shame of, and you are beat down so much at
mm-hmm.
that time that emotionally and physically,
mm-hmm.
because the emotional abuse can hurt as much as the physical abuse. When you're said you're unworthy, or you're sitting there, you're being beat, worse than, I always say worse than a dog, but I can't even say that because dogs nobody deserves to be beaten, and there's times when you disconnect because you are so ashamed. You disconnect from your family. My family didn't even know this was going on because I disconnected from them, not wanting them to know what this was going on with
so
me.
it was literally because it's important for people that have not experienced abuse. And please listen to me, those that are watching this. If you've not experienced abuse, it's so critically important not to be judgmental of the ones that have, because it's a reason surrounding why you're going to the extreme to keep it a secret.
Yes.
And that's because you're trying to make sure that no one looks down on you, or what. I'm trying to understand what is it that's happening in that person's mind that says, I have to go to the extreme to keep this a secret.
Because you love that person so much.
Okay.
You think you love that person so much.
Okay.
And they have, and I can't even say he because it could be a she, they have literally just mentally abused you so much and made you feel unworthy that no one else would want you, that you believe that.
So you're almost in a trance type of thing. You're like there's a movie that they hit the you go deep or whatever.
That is a great way to put that.
Is that because that's kind of, as I'm hearing you talk about it, it reminds me of that illustration. That
because come to think about it, that's the kind of way I felt from the age of 14 to 18. I felt like I was a zombie.
So what happened to get you from there to here? Because something major happened.
So when I had my son at 18 years old, and a lot of people were probably asking, why did you have your third son if it was so bad? At that time still, I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to save this marriage. It's going to work. He's still going to be my knight in shining armor. So we decided to have.
So you never lost hope.
No, I never lost hope.
You were thinking that no matter what, I'm going to, against all odds, stay with this man, make him be what I really know he's capable of being.
Right.
Even if it's at the expense of me being damaged in the process.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. That's an epiphany. That's amazing.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So after I had him, he wasn't even a year old, and by that time I knew it just wasn't going to work. I mean, he was still beating me. And I tell people, I don't know at the times when he would beat me. I don't know if it was something I said or I poured too much orange juice. And people look at me, what do you mean too much orange juice? It's like, seriously, I got beat for pouring too much orange juice because orange juice needed to last for a month.
Was he ever remorseful?
Not, well, he would come and say, I'm sorry. Every time, I'm sorry, I'll never do it again. Okay. I'm sorry, I'll never do it again. I promise I love you.
Okay.
That was the same message
routine
each and every time. But for me, I felt alone because I felt like I didn't have the family or the friends to reach to because I had closed them off because of the shame.
So you had isolated everyone else.
Everybody.
Okay,
and
so that's advice.
Myself.
That's advice to those that are experiencing this. What advice would you give them if they
reach out? Reach out. Don't feel ashamed. Go to whoever you need to go. Family, friends. Find a mentor, anyone that you feel that will listen to you, because everyone will listen to you. And, they will give you help. They will support you in knowing that.
Now, how did you get out?
How I got out was, there was one night, my husband literally beat me I was bloody from head to toe. He had, all day long, he had ripped all my clothes up. And just imagine this, my 3 children there. Okay.
They were witnessing this?
They were witnessing this. I was laying on the couch. He was literally taking a fishing string and trying to choke me. He was literally
So his intention was to kill
me.
That was like the day that he had decided that he was going to kill you?
Yes. He was taking a bow and arrow, and he was literally taking a bow and arrow and shooting at me. And at that moment... And shooting
the actual arrow and hitting you?
He didn't hit me. I think he was trying to scare me at that moment, He actually, I asked God, I said, God, please take me. Please do it. But you know what? For the grace of God, I looked over my 3 children, screaming and crying for him to stop. God gave me the strength to get up, carry my 3 children to the neighbor's house, call my babysitter, to never look back again. To never look back again.
Good for you, Christine.
Never look back again. So that is a story that I have held back, and you really had to be in my inner circle. And that last part, there's only probably 5 people in my whole life that knew about this before I came out with it. Before I came out with it.
Because the entire time it was a secret.
It was a secret. And see, My husband now, I married again when I was 24 to a wonderful man, Ronald. I was not the one to tell him that story. My oldest son was.
Oh.
So told him that story about how I was abused that night. I never told him that.
So you never told your new husband the traumatic way that you got out of the
what exactly happened to me.
And did he come after your previous husband? Did he come after you anymore? Or
well, he tried.
Okay.
I mean, he tried, and he, harassments and things like that. I mean, he would call and harass. And at that time, I lived in a trailer park in there. I lived in a trailer park there, and him and his family would come around the trailer park, and you real slow just to see what's going on. And he would call my phone and just cussing and everything. And finally, my aunt had called me, and she says, "Christine, come down here. Get a new life." I did. I moved to Florida with my aunt, and we moved into an apartment complex. And
thank you, Aunt, that helped to introduce her to Florida.
That's where I met my husband.
Okay.
In the same apartment complex.
So now, so you got out of that abusive situation.
Yes.
Your children survived, you survived, and you survived against a lot of odds, obviously.
Yes.
But you have this beautiful, bright smile today.
Yes.
And know what you went through for a good amount of your life.
Yeah.
Brings great joy to me to have you as my guest today.
Yeah, thank you.
I mean, I'm the one that's not supposed to be emotional. I'm like, you're going to have me toe down here, Christine.
It took me a long time not to cry when I tell this story. It took me such a long time.
But now you have overcome.
Oh, yes.
You are a woman who triumphs.
Yes.
Tell me about how you've triumphed.
So after I had met my husband, I went back to school, and then a few months later, we actually moved back to Charlotte. We moved to Charlotte, and that's where he and our life started back in '91. Was here. So we have grown with the city, and he and I, when we first came here, I worked 3 jobs while he worked. He stayed home and drawed unemployment and watched the kids and things like that. But we worked, our jobs, and then he eventually, had a job, and we struggled. I mean, and then we finally got married in '94, and then in '95 we decided to open up a truck repair company here in Charlotte.
Right. Okay.
Yes, here in Charlotte, and a lot of people say, "Well, why a truck repair service?" I said, "First, I need to feed the lives. We want to just, live from paycheck to paycheck."
Right. Now you have this beautiful being here, and they open a truck repair company, so that lets you know that she can get her hands dirty.
Yes, and I tell people, I said, I still do it in my high heels too.
Oh, that's a good thing. Those are beautiful high heels. Those are beautiful.
But we worked that job from '95 to 2002. We were both blessed to quit our jobs and go full time. And we have been working that truck repair company full time since 2000.
Excellent.
So I've come a long, long way. And I tell people, this is not the book. The outside is not the book that's inside. That you can overcome it, no matter what you've gone through. And that is my mission today. Is to share with women and to show women that no matter what they've been through, no matter what they're going through, that they can overcome it. Because it took me until I was 45 years old, I'm 48 years old, to realize that I was not the only one in this life that had went through something or going through something. So I started a podcast called Women Who Triumph, that women actually tell stories of their triumphs, of what they went through, to show women of the world to reach out. We have mentors. You can overcome it. You don't have to stay in that situation.
Well, I am so proud that you've started Women Who Triumph.
Yes, I love it.
And the women are so inspiring. Yes. So definitely tell everyone how they can learn more about Women Who Triumph, because that's important.
Yes.
That you know that, even no matter what you're going through,
yes,
that you can triumph and overcome.
Yeah, we are, I actually have a Facebook group, not Facebook group, but a Facebook page. It's called Women Who Triumph.
Okay.
You go on there and like that. And then also, it's also on Blog Talk Radio, Women Who Triumph 1. And you can go on there and actually listen to it and follow it. And these women in here, I encourage each and every woman to give their information out, because you may relate to someone on there and you may not relate to me.
Right.
I want that person to call that person and get the help that they need.
That's excellent. Now, you also talk about getting over the fear of failure. Why is that? How did that happen in your life? Well, because something had to click for that to officially happen.
Yeah. And I'm going to go back to you feeling like that zombie.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So all this time, I've always felt, because my kids have always been my why in my life.
Right.
And the way I feel, if it wasn't for my children,
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be the person I am today. I may be wrong, but they were.
I believe that. They were your rock.
They were my rock.
Yes.
They were the reason that I got up every single morning and done what I done.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and accomplished what I accomplished in my life. And they're just, I don't think with fear itself, a fear of failure, is you have to go after what you want. You know, even if it is whatever the why is that you have, that you need to, accomplish what you want. Because fear is just another 4-letter word. Now, once you accomplish whatever you want to do and you do it, you realize, why did I fear that?
Mm-hmm.
So don't fear the failure, because failure is actually a learning experience,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what I've always considered failure to. And if you fail the first time, get up and do it again,
Mm-hmm.
because you will accomplish whatever it is you need to in life. Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm having a tickle in my throat,
That's
but
fine.
that's okay.
I understand. I went through that back in December. For 2 weeks, I had a head cold.
Yeah. But I was like, I'm not letting it stop this show today under any circumstances, because life goes on. You don't let it stop you just because you have an obstacle.
Yes.
And I'm a big believer that no matter what you have going on, push past it.
Mm-hmm.
And it always works out the way it's supposed to.
Yes.
So,
God has a plan, and
always.
that's one thing I always say.
Give me a cough drop.
God always has that plan,
Mm-hmm.
and if you listen to God and you listen to His plans, doors will open so easily. You won't have to force them open.
Always.
Mm-hmm.
I've never had to force any situation.
Yes.
Things always work out the way they're supposed to.
Yes.
And even, you can just pass it to me. Thank you. One of my assistants is passing me a cough drop. Yeah, everything works out the way it's supposed to.
Uh-huh.
So my thing is, when it comes to fearing something, it's so important to say that I'm going to push past anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end, the result is, look at what the outcome is.
Yes.
It's so much better
Yes.
than what you could have ever dreamed of or ever imagined,
Mm-hmm.
only because you took that additional step to push past. And that's why I like your Women Who Triumph
Oh, yes.
podcast. And I'm inspired by it, because
Thank you.
I'm inspired by your story. That's probably what got me choked up, not just any kind of cold symptoms, but her story, because it inspires women
Mm-hmm.
to know that no matter, literally being treated at the worst possible level,
Mm-hmm.
and still picking yourself up and saying, I'm not going to let my story end like this.
Mm-hmm.
This is not all to Christine Kozachuk.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to pick myself up, and I'm going to recreate myself,
Yes.
reinvent myself, and become the great Christine that I'm meant to be.
Right.
And I'm just so grateful that you're on this show today,
Thank
sharing
you.
your story.
Thank you.
The whole world needs to benefit from what you have to
Yes.
share. Is there anything else that you really want everyone that's listening to know?
If I can do it, anyone can do it, because like I said, I came from poverty, literally nothing. I mean, people say that, some people were born with a silver spoon or a gold spoon in their mouth. I was born with a rusty spoon in my mouth.
Wow. Wow.
So if I can go from poverty to a teenage mother to the abuse with no education, and walking out of my house with no education, no transportation, and knowing not where I was going to go and what I was going to do, and still stand here and be the successful woman I am today, anyone can do it.
Yes. 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 So what advice would you give women to say that, what's the most important thing that you're proud of out of everything that you've talked about?
Oh my goodness.
You've talked about abuse.
Mm-hmm.
You've talked about a community that turned their back on you.
Mm-hmm.
You've talked about how you escaped
Mm-hmm.
death, because you actually escaped death.
Right.
You talked about still keeping your family unit together,
Mm-hmm.
even in spite of being abused and knowing that you were getting ready to be on the run. You kept your children together.
Mm-hmm.
So you are a woman to be commended. You remarried.
Yes.
You reinvented yourself.
Yes.
You went on to become a pageant girl, a truck repair owner,
an international speaker.
An international speaker.
Yeah.
Tell me about that right quick.
Oh,
I want everybody to know about Guyana.
Oh, my Guyana. Oh, my gosh.
Guyana.
Back in November, I had the opportunity to go with 12, there's 12 delegates all together that was invited to Guyana.
Right.
To speak to the people in Guyana. And in 5 days, we spoke to 13 different schools with girls and things. Oh my gosh, it was just, for me, it was a life-changing experience because it's something that I always wanted to do, is to speak globally. And that, God put that right there in our hands. Think about it. 12, God had 12 apostles. Yes. And 12 of us went into that country, which needs so much help of education and life skills. And speaking of inspiration, and these women, these girls are just, even boys, you look into their eyes, they're starving for education, they're starving for more inspiration, they're starving for wanting more. So that was just, and that was where I actually received my international award also.
Yes, I saw that.
The Dr. Estelle Collins Award, which was, basically sharing your voice and, coming and speaking to, to the nations and things like that. So I had more nations to, touch
to visit
this year. So my next one will be Africa. So speaking to women of Africa. So that will be my next one. But, for me, what I want to tell women today is, reach out. Don't be afraid.
Right.
Just do it. And the one thing that you were asking about, earlier, my kids is the thing that I'm the proudest of all. Because I literally bring my kids out of poverty with me. Because you got to think, I was a child with children. So
right.
here
with children,
with children, I was a child taking care of children, and I was not going to have them be in any situation the way I was ever going to be raised, or the way I was, had been done. But I wanted to share. Just don't, it just took me until I was 45. I'm 48. Don't be quiet. Share your voice because we all have a voice.
Well, your voice definitely has mattered here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you for having
me.
me.
I want to stand up and hug you, but I don't know if it'll mess the shot up. But I am so grateful to have you on here
Yes,
today.
and thank you for having me and let me share my story.
And today I have for you a copy of my book, Extreme Balance Makeover. So make sure that you enjoy that for your reading pleasure. And also you have a book. Can you tell everybody about that?
It's actually called The Letters of Love. And The Letters of Love, I wrote with several other authors, and it's about, this was based on my grandmother. My grandmother was I always say, was my mother's. She had always had her doors open. And going back to my childhood, that's where we mostly slept, was my grandmother, which was like a 3-bedroom trailer. And you'd wake up with 20 people in this trailer. You was lucky to have a space on the floor. But she passed away in 2012. And I wish that I had actually was able to give her speak to her and tell her how much I loved her. I didn't feel like I told her enough. So this vision of mine was, I wanted to write her a letter of love, and I was like, we need to write a book, because women these days, with the technology that we have, it's either by computer, we forget that handwriting, we forget that, just in these texts, and we forget all that. So that comes out February, we're having a book launch on February the 16th, and it's about women actually writing love letters to other women in their life, whether or not they're here or gone. So
let me ask you, would you be willing to come back on the show as a guest to talk about the love letters?
Absolutely.
Because that's a show in itself, right?
Yes.
And then you can bring the book, we can talk about it, read some letters, I'll bring my own letter.
Well, you're going to cry, you might as well bring some tissue.
Okay, I have tissue because I already knew with you I was going to cry. So definitely you'll come back and be a guest. Okay, you guys give some feedback on definitely whether you want to hear Christine talk about those love letters. And I'm sure with the pain and tragedy, the things that she's experienced, she has so much more to share through those love letters. So I can't wait to have you back.
Thank you.
And thank you for being here today again. And for all of you that are watching The Kim Jacobs Show, thank you for being today in my audience, as my viewing audience. It's been my pleasure to be able to serve you in this capacity. Listen, I have started a Mother Dreamer movement. If you have not joined the Mother Dreamer movement, I encourage you to go to motherdreamer.com and make sure that you join the movement today. Christine is a part of the Mother Dreamer movement.
Yes, I am. Love it. Yes.
And we have lots of other wonderful mothers that are a part of the movement. So join, and I promise you, you'll be connected with some mothers that understand your struggle, because they have dealt with a lot of personal issues themselves that have catapulted them to their destiny. So what they're talking about are things that are from personal experiences. And so make sure you check out motherdreamer.com. And if you are interested in my book, it's Extreme Balance Makeover. Miss Christine Kozachuk, the beautiful pageant woman here, has it. You can definitely get that on Amazon as well. Thank you so much for tuning in today to the Kim Jacobs Show. Thank you, Christine Kozachuk, international award recipient, international speaker, overcame so many different odds to be the great woman that she is today. And it's been my honor to have you on.
Thank you so much.
So thank you. Have a great day, everyone, and tune in next time.